If you're a solo builder who's been staring at your code editor, wondering why it feels like the rules changed overnight, this one's for you. Because 2 years ago, Pieter Levels said indie hacking was dead. And I still get DMs about it every single week. Panicked founders, people mid-build, mid-pivot, mid-existential crisis. And I get it, because I had the same crisis. So I did something genuinely stupid. I closed my code editor for 90 days, handed the wheel to AI agents, and tried to build a real product without writing a single line of code manually. Here's what I found, and honestly, some of it surprised me. Before we get into what happened, let me set the scene, because context matters here. The indie hacker identity was built on a very specific promise. You, a laptop, a caffeine dependency, and enough stubbornness to ship something people would pay for. No VC money, no team, no permission. Just build, launch, iterate. That was the whole deal, and for a while it worked beautifully. Pieter Levels built Nomad List and Remote OK solo. Arvid Kahl sold a bootstrapped SaaS for $170,000. The playbook felt real, and people followed it. And then something shifted. AI tools got genuinely good. Not impressive demo good, but wait, this actually shipped my feature good. And suddenly, the old playbook had a question mark hanging over it. If an AI can write the code, design the UI, draft the landing page copy, and handle customer support emails, what exactly is the indie hacker doing? That's the question I couldn't shake. And instead of arguing about it on Twitter like a normal person, I decided to run an experiment. Here's the setup. 90 days, one product idea, zero manual coding. I would use AI agents for everything I could. Code generation, UI design, copywriting, customer research, even pricing decisions. My job would be to direct, review, and ship. Think of it less like being a developer and more like being a film director who doesn't operate the camera. The question I was investigating, is indie hacking actually dead, or did it just change jobs? And I want to be upfront, I didn't know the answer going in. I genuinely wasn't sure. So here's the first crack in the indie hacking is dead thesis, and it showed up on day 3. I asked an AI agent to build me a working waitlist landing page with email capture, a basic onboarding flow, and a Stripe payment link. It took about 40 minutes. 40 minutes. The same thing would have taken me a full weekend of Stack Overflow rabbit holes, CSS debugging, and at least one moment where I seriously considered a career in goat farming. The raw build speed was genuinely shocking, and not in a cool demo way, in the barrier to shipping just collapsed way.
And the data backs this up in a way that's hard to ignore. Microsoft's 2026 Work Trend Index surveyed 20,000 AI users and found that 49% of AI-assisted conversations now involve genuine cognitive work, analysis, problem-solving, strategic thinking, not just autocomplete. And 58% of those users reported producing work they literally couldn't have completed a year ago. That number jumps to 80% for what they call frontier professionals, people who are actively pushing AI into their workflow instead of dabbling at the edges. So the speed thing wasn't just my experience, it's documented. But here's where the investigation gets interesting, because faster isn't the same as better, and I learned that the hard way around day 12. I had the AI agent generate a full feature set for my product based on a prompt I gave it. The code worked, the UI looked clean, and it was solving a problem that nobody actually had. I'd been so focused on directing the AI that I forgot to do the one thing that no AI can do for you, which is talk to real humans about real pain. The product was technically impressive and completely useless, which honestly describes a lot of VC-funded startups, but that's a different video. This is the first thing the indie hacking is dead crowd gets wrong. They're looking at the tools and concluding that the role is gone. But the tools changing doesn't kill the role, it changes what the role actually is. The indie hacker's real job was never to write code. It was to find a problem worth solving, build something that addresses it, and get it in front of people who will pay. The code was just the implementation layer, and now that layer is dramatically cheaper and faster, which should be good news, not a funeral. So let me show you the mechanism, because this is where it gets genuinely interesting. Think of two builders. Let's call them Marcus and Priya. Both are solo, both have the same idea for a productivity tool, and both start on the same day in January. Marcus is a traditionalist. He spends weeks building a custom backend, hand-coding his auth system, wrestling with deployment configs. He ships in month 3. Priya treats herself as an AI operator.
She uses agents for the code, focuses her personal time on customer interviews, pricing research, and distribution. She ships in week 2.
By the time Marcus launches, Priya has already talked to 60 potential customers, iterated her landing page 3 times based on real feedback, and landed her first 8 paying users. Marcus launches to silence because he built what he thought people wanted instead of what they actually needed. Now, Marcus isn't less talented than Priya. He's just playing the old game with the old rulebook, and the rulebook changed. The Stanford HAI 2026 AI Index found that AI-related skills now appear in 2.5% of all US job postings. That's a 297% increase over the past decade. The market is voting with its hiring. Around day 30 of my experiment, I hit what I'm calling the identity wall. And I think this is the real reason people say indie hacking is dead. Not because the opportunity is gone, but because the identity is uncomfortable to update. For years, being an indie hacker meant being a developer. It meant your technical skill was the thing that made you special, the thing that gave you permission to build. And now an AI can do a version of that in 40 minutes. So if you're not the coder anymore, who are you? That question is genuinely unsettling, and I don't want to gloss over it. Here's what the research says about this identity shift, and it's worth sitting with for a second. Experts now predict that somewhere between 50 and 55% of US jobs will be reshaped by AI over the next 2 to 3 years. Not eliminated, reshaped. There's a meaningful difference. And the reshaping follows a consistent pattern. The execution layer gets automated, and the judgment layer becomes more valuable. Doctors who use AI diagnostics still need to make the call. Lawyers who use AI research still need to argue the case. Builders who use AI code still need to find the problem worth solving. And this is where the investigation leads somewhere genuinely useful. Because the indie hacker who survives this shift isn't the one who fights the tools. It's the one who figures out what the tools can't replace. So I started mapping it out during my experiment. What did the AI agents do well? Speed, pattern recognition, code generation, formatting, drafting, summarizing. What did they consistently get wrong? Taste, judgment calls, understanding of niche community dynamics, knowing when a feature was technically possible but strategically stupid. The gap between those two lists, that's where the new indie hacker lives. Let me give you a concrete example from day 47 of the experiment, because abstract claims are easy to make and easy to ignore. I was trying to price my product. I asked an AI agent to analyze competitor pricing, calculate a value-based price point, and recommend a tier structure. It gave me a beautifully formatted answer with 3 tiers, logical anchoring, and a conversion-optimized free trial recommendation. It was textbook. And then I talked to 5 actual potential customers, and every single one of them said the thing they cared about wasn't the price. It was whether the tool would work with their existing Notion setup. The AI had no way to know that. I did, because I asked. So here's the mechanism in plain English, because this is the part that actually matters. The old indie hacker model was you have a technical skill, you use it to build something, and the build itself is the hard part. The new model is the build is cheap, so the hard part is everything around the build. The insight, the positioning, the distribution, the iteration loop. And that's actually a better deal for most people because it means the barrier to entry just dropped dramatically while the ceiling stayed the same. You don't need to be a senior engineer to compete anymore. You need to be a sharp thinker with good taste and the willingness to talk to customers. Now, I want to follow the incentives here because there's a reason the indie hacking is dead narrative keeps circulating, and it's not entirely organic. Think about who benefits from solo builders feeling like the game is over. Agencies who want your development budget, platforms who want you dependent on their ecosystem, boot camps who want you to believe you need another year of training before you can ship. I'm not saying it's a coordinated conspiracy. It's not. It's just incentive alignment doing what incentive alignment does. But when you hear the old way is dead, it's worth asking, who's selling the new way? Here's what we don't advertise. The demand for AI skills is growing 20 times faster than the overall job market right now. And workers with AI skills are commanding wage premiums up to 56% higher than their peers. So the people saying the game is over are often the same people who haven't updated their own playbook. The opportunity didn't disappear, it relocated.
and the builders who found it first are quietly shipping products that would have taken a team of 5 2 years ago.
By day 60 of the experiment, something genuinely unexpected happened. I stopped thinking of myself as a developer who was using AI and started thinking of myself as an operator who was directing a system. And that mental shift changed everything about how I worked. I started spending more time on customer research, on positioning, on understanding distribution channels. The AI handled the implementation. I handled the judgment. And the product got measurably better. Not because the code improved, but because I was finally spending my time on the things that actually move the needle. And this is where I want to get specific about what AI operator actually means in practice, because it's not a vague identity, it's a concrete set of skills. First, prompt engineering with real precision. Not just asking nicely, but knowing how to structure a request so the output is actually usable. Second, system design thinking. Understanding how the pieces connect even if you're not building each piece yourself. Third, quality judgment. Being able to look at AI-generated output and know immediately what's wrong with it and why. And fourth, the one that matters most, customer obsession. Because the AI will build whatever you tell it to build, and you're the one who has to know what's worth building. Let me be honest about what didn't work, because this isn't a highlight reel. Around day 70, I tried to use AI agents to handle my customer support responses. And for about 2 weeks, it was fine. Responses were polite, accurate, and fast. Then a user hit a genuinely weird edge case, got a technically correct but completely tone-deaf response from the AI, and publicly posted about it. The post got traction. I spent 3 days doing damage control that I could have avoided with a 30-second human response. The lesson wasn't don't use AI for support. It was don't remove human judgment from anything that touches relationship trust. Actually, that's not entirely fair to frame it as a failure. Let me rephrase that. It was a calibration. I learned exactly where the human-in-the-loop boundary needs to sit, which is information I couldn't have gotten any other way. And that's the thing about running a real experiment instead of just reading about AI. You find the actual edges, not the theoretical ones. The theoretical edge says AI can handle customer support. The real edge says AI can handle Tier 1 FAQ responses, but needs a human review flag for anything involving frustration signals or account-level decisions. That's a useful distinction.
Here's what day 90 looked like, and this is the part I didn't expect. I had a working product with paying users, a customer feedback loop that was actually running, and a total development cost that was a fraction of what it would have been 2 years ago. Not because I'm smarter than I was 2 years ago, arguably less caffeinated, so probably the opposite, but because the use cases available to a solo builder in 2026 is genuinely unprecedented. Organizations using AI collaboration platforms are reporting a 25% increase in productivity on average. For a solo founder, that's not a stat. That's the difference between shipping and not shipping. So what does this mean for you specifically? If you're a builder who's been hesitating because you feel like the game changed and you missed the memo, here's the memo. The game did change, but it changed in your favor, not against you. The expensive part of building got cheaper. The scarce part, judgment, taste, customer insight, distribution thinking, that's still scarce and that's still yours. The builders who are panicking are the ones who define themselves by the tool rather than the outcome. And the builders who are quietly winning are the ones who updated the tool and kept the mission. Here's the one thing I tell you to do today. Not this week, not when you feel ready, today. Open a conversation with an AI agent and give it a real task from your current project. Not a test task, not a toy prompt, something you actually need done. Watch what it gets right and what it gets wrong, because that gap right there is your job description as an AI operator. The things it gets right are no longer your bottleneck. The things it gets wrong are where your judgment becomes the product. And once you see that clearly, the identity crisis kind of resolves itself. You're not less of a builder. You're just a builder with better tools and a clearer job. Indie hacking isn't dead. It just stopped being about the code and started being about the call, the judgment call, the customer call, the is this actually worth building call. The builders who get that are shipping faster than ever. The builders who are still arguing about whether AI is cheating are shipping slower than ever, which is a choice, but not a great one. I spent 90 days testing the death thesis, and what I found was the opposite of a funeral. It looked a lot more like a starting gun. And if you're a solo builder sitting on an idea right now, that gun already went off.
The question is just whether you're running.
If this experiment resonated with you, the next video I'm putting out covers something that trips up almost every solo builder who makes this shift: how to price an AI-built product when your cost structure is completely different from what the market expects. It's a genuinely weird problem, and the answer is counterintuitive, worth sticking around for. And if you've been building something solo and you want to share what's working or what's broken, drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and sometimes the best ideas for future videos come from exactly that.